to the fifth in Milton Keynes Business Leaders Partnership series of Zoom interviews. I'm Flawn and I'm one of the Business Leaders Directors. And today I'm speaking to Melanie Beck, Chief Executive of My Milton Keynes. So thank you for your time, Mel. I'm glad to see you. Been such a long time.
Yes, it does seem to be going on endlessly, doesn't it?
Okay, you happy for me to ask you some questions now?
Yes, please do.
Okay. During the pandemic, Mel, My Milton Keynes has had to considerably diversify. How are you and the team doing?
So I guess like most businesses, we knew this virus was around, but I don't think anybody really saw the impact that was coming at us. I don't think any of us really thought that we were going to be locked down and our staff were going to be furloughed, or we had the opportunity to furlough our staff. So sort of within 24 hours, we went from a very busy central Milton Keynes to a completely empty central Milton Keynes and no staff in the office. And obviously our mandate is to serve business on behalf of business. They pay our wages and we're there to just represent them. And I found myself questioning, what could My Milton Keynes do in this new situation? And one of the things that we have in abundance is transport. So we've got our two little red buses that run around the city centre, and we've got a car that we use for landscape things. And so I thought, what can I do with our assets to assist all of the needs that the community were going to have in the coming days? And I was well aware from government announcements that there were people that were being shielded for 12 weeks and they were going to need to be delivered food parcels, because we were all aware of the delivery problems for supermarkets and the plundered shelves in the supermarkets. And I was also aware that I sat in the middle of CMK Parish Council. So I reached out to the Parish Council to see if there's anything we could do to collect prescriptions or assist the older residents of Central Milton Keynes. So that was sort of my first, how can we put to work those assets that we have to people, to the community and to all the people that were having to mobilise to provide these services. So we started really by delivering shielded packages. So I put my arm up and waited for the council to come back, and by the time they came back, I'd furloughed my staff. So the council said, yes, we'd love for you to assist us along with other trusted partners to deliver the food parcels. And I sort of sat there and went, okay, but now there's only me. I've got 3 vehicles, but there's only me. So in the first instance, my husband and my son helped me for 4 weeks with delivering the food parcels. Because, of course, under furlough restrictions, you're not allowed to bring staff back to do anything within your business. So that wasn't an option. So we did that. And we also reached out to the hospital, because we're fully, as a business, involved in the hospital charity. And Vanessa at the hospital said, yep, might have a job for you. So our car was going off every morning to pick up PPE. And in the afternoon, we did our food deliveries. So we were very, very busy for the first 5-6 weeks. And then as things on the food front started to get sorted out and those deliveries with supermarkets became easier to obtain, we moved on to helping businesses in the area who couldn't get delivery slots, courier company slots. We have one particular business, not within Central Milton Keynes, but within Bletchley, who were building morgues, inflatable morgues and body bags and PPE equipment. And they were making all of this equipment but couldn't get delivery slots to get to Heathrow or to get to hospitals around the country. So we started to assist them in helping them to deliver. One day we went up to Birmingham and delivered some body bags. So we have really been at the forefront of the bits that you don't think of. Body bags. I never ever expected in my life to be taking a car to pick up body bags, but in a way it humbles you and it makes you realise how serious all of this is.
Gosh, Mel, that is an awful lot you've been doing. And Congratulations and well done on all of that effort, especially as you come under the vulnerable category anyway. You've done an extremely good job there. Going on to another question, the pandemic has very positively ignited community activism. And we've seen many positive stories throughout the city. Do you believe that this will reshape the future of Milton Keynes and potentially in the area of the bid themes?
I really hope so, because I think one of the good things that's come out of this is community. And, you know, in my own place where I live, we have a delivery heroes. We've all joined up to be Sam's, good Sam's. Haven't had a call yet. I don't know how many hours I've been on duty because I don't turn it off at night. I'm just waiting for a call. But I think there are so many community groups within their areas that pull together to assist older or risked residents, that that's the good thing. I've met people and I've seen and read that this is across the country, people I'd never spoken to, because I go out at 8 o'clock, or was going out at 8 o'clock to do the CAP for carers. And one night somebody came along with some sparklers, and another night, you know, we all decided we'd come out with our pots and pans. So I took my Salvation Army tambourine out there one day, which was quite fun. So I think community, we've gone back in terms of really having a community rather than a me approach to life, and I really hope that stays that way.
Good, I do as well, because it is wonderful, you know, just going walking and people walking 2 meters apart and saying good morning, hope you're well. I think it's very good.
Just a funny anecdote, Jan. We picked up a prescription for an old couple in a village, and when I put it on the doorstep and stepped back, they came to the door with 6 eggs for me that their hens had just laid, and they said, "Thank you for all you're doing, and here's the eggs." So I came home, and it was just before Easter, and we polished off the eggs very quickly. So I went down to the newsagent and I put 6 chocolate cream eggs in, and I took it back to the old couple and said, and I gave it to them. They said, "Oh, no, we didn't want them back." I said, "No, I've got special hens." I said, they lay something much sweeter. So, you know, I think you have to make best of the current situation.
It sounds well done, Mel. Just going back to the bid, the deadline is coming up at the 2021. Do you see any alterations to the delivery as a consequence of the pandemic?
Well, certainly it's a concern. In our bid is made up of 75% retail and leisure. So that equates to £725,000 of our levy, and we demand 1,089,000. So we're very heavily rated towards those sectors, and of course they are the 3 sectors that have been most hardly hit. And certainly in the last 3 days we've heard the news that Intu may go into administration. We've heard that Victoria's Secrets has gone into admin. Yesterday the news that Debenhams will be permanently closed in Milton Keynes. So every time one of those announcements comes, it directly affects the bid, because it means that unit's going to be sitting empty. We've taken a pretty pragmatic view. With the council, we have agreed a deferred payment structure for the bid. So those that are only just getting back into their occupation haven't got to pay our bill. We're a statutory obligation. We're not really hard hitting in terms of collecting that levy in, and what I've done is readjusted what the bid will do over the next 12 months to allow for the fact we probably won't collect in the levy at the same level that we have in previous years. What I'm hoping, to answer your question, is that when we come back to the ballot box, it's February 22, so by the end of 21 we will be going back to the ballot box. We have a 28-day ballot, and I'm really hoping the successes of the first 3 years, the prudency of the next year in trying to support them and help them through, and then coming hopefully into a rebound in 21, that when we go back to that ballot box, they'll remember that we were all in it together, and we weren't aggressive in the way in which we conducted the bid and the statutory debt. So that's my hope. You know, we are in it together. We're there to help business, and we need to support them at this time, not just be another debt to them.
It's quite interesting, Mel, that there are a lot of businesses outside of your parameters of your bid area. Will you think of extending that parameter to include other businesses that are not in the city centre?
There's obviously a very defined line for the bid, with it running from the station to Marlborough Street and H5 and H6. So it's a very defined area. I have had questions from people that are in Campbell Park that have the business units down there as to whether they could possibly come in at the next bid. There's the retail park and Aldi to the other side. So there are areas where we could extend. I think what's really important for us is that when we set up the bid, we excluded anybody paying 50,000 or below in business rates, because they're small businesses, they're hard pressed, cash is king. So we didn't include them, but we do extend our services to them and we help them even though they're not paying into it. So I think, for me, I think there's a huge opportunity for places like Stony Stratford, Bletchley, Newport Pagnell, Woburn Sands to look at the model that's been created in CMK, get their businesses around them in those areas, and see whether there's any desire to set up a bid. Because what that does is creates a critical mass of money to enhance the city centre, rather than being on your own all the time pushing, which doesn't necessarily give you the critical mass to actually make a big difference. So that's what I hope. And whenever I get the opportunity, I say, well, Stony could do the same, or Bletchley could do the same. So I hope that that's starting to trickle through. But there's also funds, the High Street Fund, and I know that there's a bidding at the moment for Bletchley to have some money to help them enhance. So I think it's about coming together. It's that community again of business, looking at opportunities to work together to create a fund to drive the future for themselves.
No, that's good, because I was thinking of like Knoll Hill. There are a lot of large businesses there, which is just on the outskirts, isn't it? So that's good. But it'd be good to follow.
Yeah.
Another question, Mel. One of the themes is my safe city, and obviously safety has taken on a new level of meaning now. So will anything change as a result of the pandemic?
Well, we have 2 funded police officers that are ring-fenced to Central Milton Keynes, and over the progression of the bid, we've actually gone from having 2 to having 4, because initially we launched the 2, as I call them, Dave and Dave. Fortunately, they both have Dave as their names. PC and PCSO, made it easy for me, and they have been responsible in starting to try and drive some work with the homeless in terms of long-term solutions for the homeless, and they were working with the retailers on loss prevention and working with businesses on personal protection talks. What happened because of that initiative was that the Home Office gave a pot of money to Thames Valley Police to actually create a homeless dedicated police officer and PCSO. So we now have, Dave and Dave have moved into that area, dealing directly with homeless, and we now have Kelly and Tom who are dealing with all the other aspects in the city centre. There is absolutely no doubt that safety is key to the reopening of the local economy. People are going to be very anxious, and we're running a survey at the moment about attitudes and behaviours pre-lockdown to post-lockdown. And it's very clear that there is an anxiousness about coming back to the city centre, about going to retail, about generally being within the city centre where there may be a homeless person that tends to come right up to you to ask for money. So one of the things that we're working on at the moment is ensuring that our police officers are very visible, that some of the landscaping and cleaning up of the city, cutting back of landscaping, makes people feel much more comfortable, that they can see where they're going, good, well-lit underpasses, and just as a strategy, ensuring that safe is embedded into every piece of work that we're doing at the moment, so that when people come back, they're seeing the signage, they're seeing messages that's appropriate to the business, and people feeling comfortable about coming back to those particular occupiers. The one unknown at the moment is the 4th of July. If the government presses ahead with opening retail and leisure and hospitality, as we hope they will, and I know there is some discussion about lowering the 2 metre to 1 metre to make it more viable for those occupiers to open. The issue we are going to be wrestling with is how our youngsters, who believe they're pretty immune to this virus, in fact all of the media suggests they're immune to this. We've heard about herd immunity, we've heard about the fact that schools should be going back because the percentage is very low for children to catch this. We're very concerned as a business leader, as our Thames Valley Police and the Violent Crime Unit, about what happens when the youngsters come out in their droves on the 4th of July. Few jars go down their throat and they become very amorous and want to hug each other, is going to be a concern. We obviously know that there's an area we have had some gang situations and some knife crime, and so very concerned about how that's going to translate, scores that may need to be settled post-lockdown. So that's certainly a big concern of the Violent Crime Unit. And finally, the good thing in all of this is that the police told me that the only people that were out after 8 o'clock during the major part lockdown were the drug dealers. So they've been able to actually do some fairly extensive work on tracking those people and hopefully, removing them from our community.
That's very good. You were talking about restaurants and leisure facilities reopening. We know that we're losing Carluccio's and some of the other restaurants. How will that affect yourself?
Well, there's good news on the Carluccio's front because they've actually been bought out. So hopefully we're not going to lose them. So that's a good thing. However, there are others. We've heard the Bella Italia brand is potentially in talks for a soft admin. And there is no doubt that they're really struggling. We have an 11 o'clock meeting every Tuesday where we talk to retail and leisure about their plans for reopening. Some are reopening, so the Taipan, for all the Chinese fans, that opened for takeaways a few weeks ago. I have to say we were the first night we were there to collect our takeaway, but there are others that are going to find it too difficult. So Bella Italia, we don't know what's going to happen to them. Bar and Kitchen, a lot of their business is based on eventing, so they won't be opening in the first wave. Crazy Golf, how do you sanitize all of those little crazy golf exhibits between people playing on them? So that's probably one that is going to be too difficult to do, locked in a room. Similarly, well, everyone that doesn't open or goes into admin or closes its doors permanently is a loss to the bid. But more importantly, it's not about the cash that comes to me in the levy. It's a loss to Milton Keynes and its offer in its totality. We have a wonderful city here that has a very diverse retail, leisure and hospitality sector, and that's been part of its attraction. So the more we can do to help save and support those particular sectors, the better it is for us as a rounded economy, for our residents and for our visitors.
Thank you, Mel. Can you just tell us how My Milton Keynes is supporting all the retailers to help them with their confidence, supporting not just the retailers but the consumers, so that they can come back to the wonderful centre and start shopping again?
So the shops will open on Monday next week. Over the last 4 weeks, we have kept very closely working with the heads of those, so the general managers of those buildings, and they've been sharing their plans for reopening. I have absolutely no doubt that when you walk into that building, you will feel safe. Every single store has a queuing line laid out with chevrons to show you how to queue. Every door has a hand sanitizer. They will only be allowed to have 8,000 people in that centre at any one time, and that will be controlled via those doors that are indoors and those doors that are out, so that they can count the numbers in. They are able to lock down zones in those shopping centres, so if one zone has too many people in, then they can stop any more filtering into that area. So from that perspective, I've got absolutely no doubt that we will be very well looked after if we choose to go and shop, which I'm sure lots of people are absolutely desperate to do. John Lewis won't open in the first wave. They won't open Monday the 15th, but they are opening the following Monday. And that's because their mantra as a business is to ensure safety comes first. Cash comes way down the line. It's safety first. And so they're opening some stores next Monday, and they will watch the learnings of those stores as they have been their Waitrose brand. They've had all of their staff furloughed into or sent over to the Waitrose brand. So there's been a lot of learning there on how to open that particular store. So from the retail perspective, I'm very happy that we've got that sorted, and there's been lots of sharing of plans with the council, and we've been running a survey to support that, and that's showing that there is an anxiousness, and where that anxiousness is in a feeling of too many people not being respectful of others' social distancing. So all of those key components that are coming out of those surveys are assisting us in how we model the reopening of the retail. On the leisure side, it's a little bit more difficult. We've worked with the council, and Pete Marland, the leader of the council, has been really accessible and understanding of the need for retailers to have more restaurateurs to have more open space. At the moment, they are allowed to trade, but it's got to be in the outside. Well, achieving that in their current space with 2 metre distancing, in some cases, didn't make it viable for them to open. So working with the council, we've identified where space can be made greater so that it makes it viable for them to open. So it's really been a hands-on approach, but not by the bid as one entity. You know, we haven't been the leader of the charge. It really has been partnership working with business leaders, with Milton Keynes Council, with the FSB, with the Business Council, and Milton Keynes Council, and various officers who've really been on it to make sure that every facility has been made available to make, if they want to open safely, to make it possible for them to open.
Oh, thank you very much, Mel. Thank you for you and your team and all that wonderful work you've been doing. And it's been really good to chat. I've learned an awful lot from you today. Thank you.
Now, the important thing is that we all come together, and I think, you know, what you're doing with business leaders, talking to different people and their different perspectives from their different sectors of business has really helped. I watched the McDonald's one. It's really helped us to understand some of the problems that are about opening, that people probably are frustrated that we've not got moving on this fast, but there's so much we're having to think about. Risk assessments that we have to think about in every element of our business day, and if we don't have them in place, then somebody can come along and close us down, and that's not good news. So I'm really keen that we're able to say that Central Milton Keynes is COVID-19 safe, and that's our message.
Thank you, Mel. Thank you very, very much.
Thanks, Jan.